With you every week.
Rick and Nick's Excellent Adventure.
Rick and Nick's Excellent Adventure.
Dr. Nick, good to see you today. How you doing?
Good to be back, Dr. Rick. How are you doing?
Pretty good, thanks. Hey, Nick, I was having a conversation. I ran across this article that I found kind of interesting, and so I had a conversation with my daughter Desi, and it was the title of the article is 10 slang terms for Gen Z.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do so well. I am officially out of touch, Nick, but I wanted to see you're on the front lines more than I am at this point. So I'm going to see how you're going to do. I got about a 10% on this thing. Desi did very good. Of course, she's 16 years old. She should do pretty good. She got like a 90% on this thing. So I'm going to give you the term and you're going to tell me what it means or if you know. Okay. Ready? Here we go.
All right.
It's giving.
It's giving. I would have to wage the guess that it's like really good, something really good.
Yeah. It's giving. Can be used as a way to compare someone or something to another person or thing, or to positively describe the overall vibe of a person or thing. I'll give you that. I got that one wrong. I had no idea. I was clueless.
All right.
So.
Okay.
All right.
I was kind of thinking.
1 for 1.
All right.
One
so
for
we've
one.
Tied. We've tied.
Yeah, that's about. Yeah, I got one right. Yeah. How about this one? A fit check.
A fit check.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we know what that really means, but I would guess in kid lingo, it would mean if two kids are compatible to date, maybe.
Oh, good guess, but that's not right. A fit check describes the act of reviewing one's outfit. On TikTok, influencers often post their fit checks in which they announce the brand of each article of clothing they're wearing.
Oh. Okay.
Like check and make sure. Desi says kind of like also like before you go out, you do a fit check. You're gonna check, make sure you're all put together and presentable and everything. So,
I like it. Okay, that's a very TikTok-y one. Okay, all right.
This next one, I knew this one. You probably will as well. How about slay?
Oh, slay! You're killing it.
Yeah. You got this one. Describe something impressive or more generally something positive. Can be used as a noun or admiration of expression. I actually knew that one, so I felt very hip. All right, good. You're 2 for 3.
Well, yeah, 2. If you're giving me the first one, 2 for 3.
Yeah. Okay, how about this one? Era.
ERA.
Yeah.
Era. It's like it's a different time period for like the Taylor Swift album. So it's like her one album to the next album. It's different outfits. It's the way they.
Oh yeah. I'll give that to you. Yeah, I really had no clue other than kind of the typical definition. So yeah, the term era follows its typical meaning, but it's often accompanied by a word or phrase that describes an activity or event by the period in which it was defined. So yes, I'll give you that one. You're 3 for 4. You are slaying this. Did I say that right? Did I use that right?
You used that correctly.
Yeah, you're slaying. Okay.
Nice work. You're Gen Z in it.
Yeah. How about the next one? Gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper. Wow. Is that the friend who manages the group to see whether or not kids get in or don't get in? Kind of like the boss of the group type thing?
That may be a little too direct for this definition. Right. What the article says is a gatekeeper tries to control who has access to knowledge and opportunities. So I guess there could be a gatekeeper for a group. I could see that. But so the example they use is he wouldn't tell me where he got those sneakers. He's such a gatekeeper. So it's more
it's more on it's not as serious as like, when we're gatekeeping in a college to keep certain kids out of classes. It's more like.
Right. Yeah. Or gatekeeping like parents, right? Controlling what kids do and don't. Right. Yeah. It's more like, information. So I'm not quite sure I'll give you that one, but you're still doing good. Oh, actually, I think I knew this one. Maybe I got 2 right. I think maybe I did. How about lit? You should know this one.
Oh, it's lit. It's awesome. It's great. Really cool. Kids are totally digging it. It's an awesome song played at the dance. It's lit.
Yeah, good. An adjective used either to describe a fun, high energy situation or someone who is intoxicated. Also, All right. Next one.
That's more our old school definition.
Yeah, that's right. Wait, what are we up to? Like 5 out of 7? I don't even know. I'm losing track.
I missed 2 so far.
Okay. All right. How about this one? A situationship. I had never heard of this.
Situationship. a complicated relationship. Like they're not quite dating, but they might be more than friends, but they might not be. No one really knows what's going on. They don't really know what's going on.
You got it, man. Yeah, you got this. You got this. Oh yeah. A romantic relationship that isn't quite full on a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good. You got it. How about I should have known this one, but I didn't really get I've heard it, but I didn't really know what it was. How about to ghost someone?
You pieced out on them. You just disappeared. Yeah, like we were texting a lot, and things were looking really good, and then all of a sudden they stopped answering, they stopped replying.
Yeah,
Boom,
you
they
got it.
ghosted
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. That's
Right.
it. Yeah, ghost someone is to stop replying to their texts or calls, often without explanation. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'd heard it. I had a gist, but I couldn't really describe it. I had
Yeah,
no
I think
clue
you're
in
like
this one.
you're at least 3 for 10 at this point.
Yeah. No, I think it was
You got
two.
scored much too harshly.
How about this one? Riz. I didn't know
R
this one, but it makes
R I
sense.
Z
R
R I
I
S
Z Z R I Z Z.
Riz. Like you're playing jokes on someone, practical joking them.
That's like Raz, I think. I remember that as a Raz,
Raz,
but
yeah.
yeah, no, Riz, this is different. As a person with Riz is a term derived from charisma. They're charming, put themselves out there. They're often used when
Huh.
referring to someone who can confidently and successfully pursue a potential romantic partner. So,
Oh, so
yeah,
like charisma and romance. You got a little bit of
yeah,
both there.
yeah. I'll give you an
I got to
example.
start using that one.
That guy has Riz. He can get any girl he wants. Yeah, got Riz. Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
I'm going to start using that one.
Okay, good. Oh, and this was a new one for me, but now I'm using it all the time because it's fun. Touch grass.
Touch grass.
Mhm.
Is that like drop and give me 20?
I
Touch
guess.
grass. Yeah. You like you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and now you got to fix it, clean it up,
Yeah.
something.
No, not it, Nick, but good try.
Thank you.
Touch grass is said to people who seem to spend too much time online and could benefit by getting outside. Or in my son's case, too much time on the video games. Toby, touch grass.
I like it.
We're saying
I,
that a lot around the house lately. So there you
oh,
go,
that's
Nick. You did
awesome.
really well. I don't think you got
We're
like a
doing.
70, 80%. That was definitely a pass.
I'm
You
surprised we didn't hear like bussin' or we hear that a lot, and you
Bussin'.
really
What
like,
is that one? I've heard that before, but I don't know
it's
what
like
that
you're
means.
bussin', like it's like that food was really bussin'. It was really awesome.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's like a really good type. Yeah, it's
Bussin'.
yeah.
Great.
Riz and touch grass. All right, I'm implementing both of those into my vocabulary now.
Okay, fantastic. What's been going on with
Well,
you
that was.
guys?
I mean, last week. So the kids finished this week, school wise. So we
Uh-huh.
were winding up the school year for both Danielle and I, which was good. My biological children go for one more week. So they're not quite finished yet. So it's
Okay.
always a crazy couple weeks at the end. You know how it is. You're just trying to keep a lid
Yeah.
on the pot and make sure the kids aren't misbehaving too terribly or too much. But actually, I'll share a quick story that is perfect middle school and also is middle school heart-touching, middle school inspirational, and you'll understand why I have to put the middle school in front of that when I tell the story, because you might be expecting like that you're going to cry a little bit and there's going to be like but it's really more middle school than any of that. So one of my lunch periods, we have a couple tables that are they can be annoying. The kids are they get a bit rammy, we'll say, but they're not bad kids. They're just they
Mhm.
just they push the boundaries of what lunchtime should be. So anyway, after a year of the typical dealing with social media stuff, online stuff, kids being mean, not being friendly, whatever it is, it's final couple days, final day lunch duty, and I noticed something sort of weird happening at the table, but not weird the way it usually is, because usually it's very demonstrative when they're misbehaving and you can see it. Like this was a little more like low key. And I noticed half the table kind of like sort of all kind of gets up at the same time and forms a circle, sort of like an amoeba shape. And there's a kid in the middle, and they walk to the exit of the cafeteria. And the other half of the table goes over to where we keep the cleaning supplies and start getting some paper towels and cleaning stuff and come to the table. And I'm sitting there with Ildy, the assistant principal, and we're kind of like, oh, like was something spill, maybe, something, what's going on, man? Whatever. So Ildy's like, I'll go over, I'll see what's going on, try to help him out. So she walks over to the table, and while she's walking over to the table, I'm watching the amoeba of kids going towards the exit. And one of our lunch duty people, who's very on the ball, steps in front, as we normally would, to see what these kids are all doing, and all of a sudden steps aside very quickly and lets them all leave. Like,
Okay.
bizarre. Whatever. I have no idea what's happening. So Ildy comes back up and she's like, I don't know. Whatever it was, they cleaned it up pretty quick. I couldn't tell anything. And anyway, end of the lunch period, the lunch duty person, who I referenced earlier, comes up to us and says, well, you don't see this one every day, he said. One of the kids at the table was attempting to impress the entire table with a loud fart. But instead of the fart, they did what is known as a shart.
Oh, no.
They pooped themselves.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And what would you...
No.
I mean, in a situation like this in 7th or 8th grade, you would expect, like, the the phones are out, right?
Yeah.
We're on social media. We're totally blasting this kid. No. That entire table of kids who were normally on my nerves rallied together, came up with a super quick plan to put him in the middle of the circle so no one could see his soiled pants, get him out to the nurse to try to get a change of clothes, while the other half of the table cleaned the mess that was made.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive.
Impressive and heartwarming,
But
only in the way for a middle school. It's, in context of middle school. It's
wow.
Right? Like, a bunch of kids who, we're not going to let this kid be embarrassed. We're not going to let him become the ridicule of the social media day. We're going to protect this kid. And that's exactly what they did.
Oh, that's just fantastic. That is a strangely heartwarming story.
That's
Yeah. Wow.
That's exactly how we defined it. So
yeah, that's one for the middle school principal files and eventual book somewhere down the line there, Nick. That's a good one. Wow. Fantastic.
It was a good, kind of a good one to end the year on. So that's what's been going on in our world.
Oh, very cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, you got a blog for us today.
I do. Our blog today is going to be, as you get to the end of school years, you tend to wax philosophical a little bit. So I compiled the 16 keys to educational leadership, but solely from the perspective of my 25 or so years in education. So these are my keys to unlocking success. And I figured, since we're doing short form blogs here, I would split it into 4 separate posts. So today you're going to get keys 1 through 4 on the blog. So here we go. Effective educational leadership is crucial for creating a thriving learning environment that fosters student success. Over the past 25 years, my experiences, along with those of my amazing colleagues, past and present, have identified the top 16 keys to success in educational leadership. Today, let's explore these principles and the first 4 keys together. Number 1, do what is best for kids. Educational leaders must prioritize the well-being and success of their students. More than any other key, this is critical and must always be the first priority in making any decision. Whenever the pros and cons of an issue are being looked at, each one should be looked at through the lens of, is this best for kids? If the answer is no, or probably not, then you can save yourself plenty of time by moving on to another line of thought. For example, the issue of later school start times for secondary students is hotly debated, but the science strongly shows physical and mental health benefits to more sleep for teenagers. So this idea passes the "is this best for kids" test. The accompanying issues must then also be considered through that question. If we establish a later school time being positive for kids, then we'll ask the same questions as we explore the impact on after-school sports and activities, early morning darker bus stops for elementary students, etc. 2. Either you run the day or the day runs you. Effective leaders manage their time wisely. Research by the NAASP found that successful school leaders consistently allocate their time and resources strategically to maximize student achievement. It serves as a powerful reminder that in order to be effective and successful, individuals must proactively manage their day by setting priorities, creating a plan of action, and staying organized. By doing so, they can prevent the day's events from dictating their actions and instead drive their own agenda. This quote encourages individuals to be intentional with their time, maximizing productivity, and maintaining a sense of purpose and direction in both their professional and personal lives. It also imparts the importance of perspective and attitude. When I taught self-contained emotional support at the middle and high school level many years ago, the students who would wind up being successful had a victor, not victim, mentality. They believe they can change their circumstances and lives. Students who did not fare as well usually believed that the world did onto them, and they didn't have agency or the ability to change their lives for the better. Number 3, build trusting relationships. Building trusting relationships is an essential element of success, both personally and professionally. Trust serves as the foundation for strong, lasting connections that enable collaboration, open communication, and mutual support. In an educational setting, trusting relationships among staff, students, and parents contribute to a positive learning environment where everyone feels valued and empowered. Trust fosters a sense of psychological safety, allowing individuals to take risks, share ideas, and engage in productive dialogue without fear of judgment or reprisal. Ultimately, cultivating trusting relationship leads to higher levels of engagement, motivation, and achievement, creating a thriving and supportive community that can benefit all of its members. And number 4 for today, the final one, always ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? Leaders should weigh the benefits and costs of their decisions. A study by the Wallace Foundation showed that leaders who carefully consider the impact of their decisions on student outcomes consistently achieve better results. The concept of return on investment, ROI, is crucial in evaluating the efficiency and effectiveness of various initiatives or investments. By considering the benefits gained in relation to the resources expended, decision makers can prioritize products that yield the greatest impact, aligning with their goals. An emphasis on ROI promotes strategic planning, prudent resource allocation, and overall financial sustainability, ensuring that individuals and organizations can maintain their growth and success in the long term. A simpler interpretation of this principle also fits the old saying, is this really a hill you want to die on? As I get older, and hopefully wiser, I find that there are less and less hills worthy of taking a stand. There's a ton of bureaucracy and red tape in the education field, but much of it can be completed quickly or perfunctorily. It's only when true issues arise that either truly benefit students or truly hurting students where we should probably choose a hill. Join me again in 2 weeks as we look at the next 4 keys, 5 to 8, to unlocking success.
Wow, Nick, there is so much there. That is, I love these guidelines. I feel like we could do an entire episode on each one of these, and we've got 4 of them here. Just fantastic. Let me just jump in on one of my reactions to number 3, this build trusting relationships. I love just that title for that one, because so often in our field, and I say our field, education, counseling,
Yeah.
I hear the word networking, and I hate that word. And I think that's probably what people mean when they say networking. But what I get from networking is something that's artificial, superficial, and self-serving. So I don't like it. It just rubs me the wrong way. But what you said was building trusting relationships, getting to know people in an authentic way, and collaborating, working together, right? Getting each other. And I don't know, that's just so critically important to the work that counselors do, school counselors do. So from a professional standpoint, that one just jumps out at me. And I just wanted to kind of make discern the difference between what I often hear is that word networking. So that's one reaction I have.
That's a great point, Rick, on the because I agree. I think networking is like a business term that's used to like get ahead by knowing more people as opposed to really getting to know people.
Yeah, and I feel like that has influenced education. I don't know in a great way. Is some people kind of, I get the sense that there's a movement to look at school as a business, right? And it's it's not. It's different than a business. Not that we can't take some of the approaches and strategies that we use in the business world, but to just kind of use it as the same thing, I think it's wrong, and it kind of gets in the way.
Absolutely.
Nick, I have another thought too. Pretty deep stuff here. We're on the cusp of summertime for so many educators, right? And of course, people could be listening to this at any time of the year. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, taking time away, not thinking about education. Do you recommend that for your teachers? Do you recommend they just kind of wrestle with some ideas, some educational concepts over the summer? I wonder how you leave your faculty and staff, or what recommendations you just have for any teachers or educators out there of what to do that's productive over the summer, but also gives them an opportunity to kind of, recharge.
Yeah, I think that the first notion of recharging, as you hear my dogs going insane over, I believe it's just a person walking a smaller dog than them. is that, yeah, you got to take a couple weeks off entirely. Like the
Uh-huh.
end of the school year is just, blows people away. And a break is definitely always needed. So I usually recommend, yeah, take a couple weeks where you're completely tuned out, try to get away, vacation, read a book that has nothing to do with real life, go to the movies, eat some popcorn, just, get away. And especially in the early part of the summer, I think that's big. From there, a lot of it, I think, especially for teachers, it's kind of like reflecting on what worked and didn't work for you during the school year and
Yeah.
look for ways to try to um, improve upon that the following year or change things up entirely. And I think a lot of that depends on the age of the teacher, how long they've been doing what they're doing. Are they in a new position? Have they been doing the same thing for 20 years? That ties into it a lot. But, a lot of the times when you hit this point, it's just like you're happy to have survived. When we get closer to August, when we get ready to start coming back, that's when we start rolling out what our goals and what we're going to be focusing on for the school year usually are. And then that kind of offers a chance for them to start thinking again if they want to do that. So I'm
Yeah.
more of a big proponent of, man, just take a break.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. A few other kind of thoughts. Just get me back up to number one. I'm glad it's number one. And it's a mantra I've heard from you for a long time was what's best for kids, right?
Right.
Is kind of the first checkpoint whenever you're considering a new initiative, a new strategy, or changing something or keeping something the same, even what's best for kids, what's best for them. And that to me is a great mantra to have and something that always kind of checks me now that I've kind of got that term. What's best for kids? I mean, go back to that and go from there. Um, and another one along the same lines, number four, because I've heard you say this on the podcast before, is the juice worth the squeeze? That's another one to me that just that term has been helpful to me. Is this a battle? Is this a hill I want to die on? Am I choosing my battles? How important is this? And I just like that kind of term. I've used that several times personally and kind of professionally over the past few months. So
It
yeah,
works
I
for both, doesn't
appreciate
it?
this. Yeah,
Like
yeah, it
it's
does.
a good marriage question. It's a good friendship question. It's a good question
It's a
with the kids sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good raising teenagers question. That's one
Yes.
that Christy and I have been kind of wrestling with, and something we've talked about quite a bit over the past year. Really, as we're raising teenagers.
Yep. It's like, man, I just don't know. I just don't think this is one where I want to stake the
Yeah,
flag on the hill there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Good stuff, Nick. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Thank you. Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, lots more of these to discuss as we go over the next several weeks.
Fantastic. Hmm. All right,
Well, Rick,
Nick. I
that
think
moves us on to our my favorite part of the show, which we get back into our assets, right?
yeah, we're back to the developmental assets, and we've talked. Well, we've been doing this for months. Over half a year now. We've been kind of methodically working our way through the 40 developmental assets, and if you've heard this before. Just real quickly summary, this is what helps kids be tough despite tough circumstances. It helps kids be tough, like survive despite difficult circumstances. And researchers over the past 50 years have narrowed it to 40 kind of critical elements or 40 developmental assets. And these are important for us to know because they're opportunities for us to kind of jump in and provide support, jump in and provide education, jump in and just help kids kind of gain some of these assets so they can have success. And the research is really, really strong on these assets for sure. And we're up to, what are we up to? 39 and 40, I think. Or no, I'm sorry, 29 and 30. That's better. And so let me just read them. And Nick, maybe you've got some thoughts to get us started. So number 29, honesty. Young person tells the truth, even when it is not easy. And number 30, responsibility. Young person accepts and takes personal responsibility.
Two of the most important of the assets, in my opinion, even though I know we really shouldn't be assigning an importance to them, but in the field of education, especially when you're looking at middle level and high school level, these two in particular, I feel really play into letting us see where a child is at one particular time, and then you can kind of see how they grow over time, depending on how well they advance in these particular two areas. So, first of all, telling the truth, even when it's not easy, that's similar to the old doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always right, and do the right thing when no one's watching,
Yeah.
which are tough. So it's definitely not easy to tell the truth when you've done something wrong, and then you're called to the table and then have to either fess up to it or decide not to fess up to it. And again, that's kind of what I mean by we'll oftentimes see a student come in early 7th grade or 8th grade, and they will take the path of trying to deny or to lie, as opposed to owning, what happened or telling the truth, and then realize that it's going to be an easier path to be honest up front in terms of being able to move forward. Now, a lot of that has to do with a lot of the assets we've already talked about: building trust, being involved, feeling safe, and things like that. And then it moves on to the second part, which is 30, where the young person accepts and takes responsibility. What's interesting is that you cannot fulfill 29, but then you can fulfill 30. You know what I mean? Like, you can choose to not be honest, but then when the consequences are still laid upon you and the truth is outed in some way, then you have an opportunity with 30. And I've seen kids who have lied up front who then do take responsibility and make good, make amends, whether through restorative practices or whatever. So there are two very interesting assets in that they might not both necessarily come together at the same time. They can very much operate individually or develop over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Great points, Nick. Great points. I'm reminded, I saw a quote here recently from C.S. Lewis. It's integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's watching. We had wrestled with that term integrity before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think on the show. And yeah, I think that's the piece that was kind of missing as we were kind of talking through that. And it's relevant here. When we're talking about honesty, it's doing the right thing, even or being truthful. This is an interesting one, Nick. I want to focus more on the honesty one because, I for years I was an elementary school counselor, and now I teach school counseling and many elementary school counselors. I work with a lot of school counselors, and we do something about this is character education, right? Where school counselors help to develop positive character traits, and it's not exclusively done at the elementary school level, but often it's done at the elementary school level, and then not as much at middle school and rarely in the high schools, in my experience. I'm not saying it should be that way. I'm just saying that that's typically the way that it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's problematic, I guess, is one of my points. And let me continue on for a minute. Honesty is one of those character traits that I think you could ask any thousand people across America, is honesty important? And they'd say, oh, absolutely. That's an important character trait. And yet we live in a society in which perjury, embezzlement, infidelity, theft, scammers, cheaters, people cheating at sports, stealing signs, deflating balls, performance-enhancing drugs. I mean, we could go on and on and on with the dishonesty that is just throughout our culture and society. And yet we not 999 out of 1,000 people would almost certainly say, yes, honesty is important. I think we do a decent job teaching our young ones that honesty is important when it's kind of direct, right? We teach them what honesty is and how important it is to be honest. But what happens between early, maybe even middle childhood and adolescence and adulthood, that sometimes it gets lost or we forget it or it loses its importance? And I don't know for sure. Maybe I'm just kind of going to wax philosophical here for a moment, Nick, but I think one of the problems is that when kids kind of advance cognitively, right, that they start to have competing values. Even the two that we've got here today in front of us, right, responsibility and honesty, both important. What happens when they're competing? What happens when I have to make a decision about being responsible and providing for my family, right, or being honest and not cheating or stealing? Both are important. Which one? How do I weigh those two and then make a good decision about what to do or what not to do? I don't know that we always do a great job at that. In psychology, we have this model called Kohlberg. Lawrence Kohlberg developed a model of moral development. And the unfortunate thing about that model, I think, is that kids typically don't get that until they get to college, and most kids don't go to college. Right? How do we wrestle with, how do we kind of, weigh the value of these two different values and make a decision that, I don't know, you're familiar with the Heinz dilemma, Nick, where this is
That's
classic.
not the train one, is it?
No, it's the one where, this person's spouse is is dying of an illness, and this pharmaceutical company has a medication to heal them, but they've upped the price to make a profit, and so the person can't afford. And so, do they steal the product, or do they steal money to buy the product, or do they not buy the product and let their spouse die? I mean, they're wrestling with these competing values. And here, I guess, let me try to pull this back, Nick. I think those kind of conversations are important for kids in middle school and high school, and it shouldn't be exclusively a school's responsibility. That's not my point. I think those kinds of conversations can and should happen at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
With families. And I think those kind of conversations can happen in community centers and in places of worship. And kind of, I think maybe we can do a better job as a culture, as a society, of helping kids wrestle with competing values. Because I think that's part of the problem, is that we know honesty is important, but at some point it goes from like the top 2 or 3 down to like 10. Because all these other things, like living your best life, you only live once. Oh, that's a good value. Nothing wrong with that, except when it comes in place of, it comes before being honest, right? Or being responsible. And I think it's part of the problem. And it's something I think we can do a better job at from a very direct professional perspective. I want to see our school counselors at the middle school and high school level have more opportunity to work with students doing that kind of work. In small groups and in classrooms, as opposed to kind of spending all their time doing administrative work and scheduling classes. So those are some of my thoughts, Nick.
Yeah, it's funny because as you're describing those very specific philosophies, it's very much like the shades of gray theory. It's not a theory. It's just when you look at students in middle school and high school in particular, they see things oftentimes very much in black and white. This is right. This is wrong. Mm-hmm. But as you get older and you start having life experiences or opportunities, lots of those are provided in college. And you make a great point about, well, if most kids are going to college, then they're not getting a lot of those opportunities necessarily, where you start to see that, there are shades of gray. There are in particulars that make this more questionable. Yeah. And then that question of honesty, honesty by itself, is it actually a virtue, or can there be value-based decisions made in the realm of being honest versus not being honest? And all of that is so complicated. And if you don't have a strong network, or you haven't developed a lot of these assets as we're looking at them, I guess it does become easier to start justifying things that maybe we shouldn't be justifying, or embracing things that might not necessarily be or shouldn't be as high on the list. Whereas, honesty might have been higher and now it's dropped down to 10 or whatever that number may be, where some reconsidering should be done. So there's some really great thoughts there to consider.
Modeling, it comes into play here as well, right? The importance of the adults in kids' lives modeling honesty, modeling responsibility, and talking about that being important to them. And we're not going to do it perfect. Gosh, I don't do it perfect. I wish I did. I don't. But, if I got a bag of dog food on the bottom of the cart that I forgot, I got to go back into Walmart and pay for that thing, even though I'm pressed for time. And that's what I need to do. So I've had some successes modeling for my kids honesty, and I've failed a few times too that haunt me. Like, oh man, they heard me say that, and that's not true, and still wrecks me. Little stuff, not like I did a felony or anything, but just they still kind of stick with me. If that was so stupid, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, modeling is an important piece of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that goes back to our not serious conversation where we were discussing The Last of Us, and when Joel has to make his decision as to what he's going to do, and from the lens of honesty and responsibility.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, that is the challenge right there for him, isn't it? Yeah, in those final moments. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that has and there will be consequences for that. It just depends on how that that's man. Even fiction is even as good as real life sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It gives us opportunity to really kind of think about deep things in a fun way, and enjoy it. So yeah, absolutely. Good, great point. Great point.
Well, yeah, we could go on for hours for sure about these two, but we also have Every Rose Has Its Thorn to get to, Rick, and a couple of mailbag ones. And you've picked a topic for Every Rose Has Its Thorn where we literally could talk for 8 hours nonstop without sleep, food, or drink. So I hope you have a method for weaning it to a way we can actually really make good decisions here, because this is a wide open one, wide open.
Absolutely, Nick. I want you to go ahead and get started. I bet you got some strong feelings on this one. So our topic for Every Rose Has Its Thorn today is cartoons. Cartoons.
I mean, my rose is bar none. I didn't just pick a show for my rose. I picked one of the best parts of my childhood, and I am so sad that our generation was the last generation to experience this. And it's Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah. Right.
When all three networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, had a full line of programming from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday mornings of original cartoon programming that only showed at those times during those days, during that day. And that was childhood. And, you know, over time, that just completely went away. Cable television did some damage, and streaming TV totally blew it out of the water. But I'll just never forget the days where we had, I would wake up at 6:30 and watch Thundar the Barbarian and Captain Caveman. Eventually get to the Smurfs, and it was just those were quintessential roses for me. And the only other part that I would throw into the roses would be the weekdays, Monday through Friday, from 3:30 to 4:30. You would get G.I. Joe and the Transformers.
Yep.
Maybe He-Man, maybe the Thundercats, but it's nothing better. So those are my roses. My cons for cartoons would simply be that I just feel like their importance in society has diminished. And there's some great cartoons that exist today that just don't get the kind of attention they should, because we don't put the value on cartoons where they should be. So shows like Bluey, Bubble Guppies, even Paw Patrol, and some of the more popular, famous ones, just really, I don't feel like get quite the attention that they deserve in terms of how creative and how good they are. I just think there's a great there's a plethora of good stuff that's out there, and it just doesn't get seen as much or enough. So that would be the pros and cons I would go with here.
Yeah, what great points. Yeah, there's just so much content out there, right? Whereas as opposed to when we were growing up, it was Saturday morning cartoons and then afternoons, right after school, like you said.
Yep.
And so there just wasn't as much. We had a limited number of networks, and so things kind of jumped out more. So, Nick, mine mirrors yours, to be quite honest with you, because I had Transformers, G.I. Joe. That was the after school activity at my grandmother's house, watching those every day. Immediately home from school, in front of the television to watch those two. I picked one from our college days that we enjoyed. Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yes.
You remember, and Brack. Yeah, absolutely. So I put that in as a rose. And then I also put just a more current one, and you said it, which was Bluey. Bluey is hilarious, and it's smart, and it's they got stuff there, lots of stuff obviously for kids, but there's a lot of kind of over kids' heads, straight to the adults, funny stuff in that show. So, I enjoy when that's on and Holly's watching that, or she doesn't as much anymore, but I did certainly enjoy it when she was watching Bluey quite a bit.
Bluey's great. And even Peppa Pig, Rick. I complain about Peppa Pig because Daddy Pig he's the butt of all the jokes all the time, but it's also hilarious that he's the butt of the jokes all the time, because I think we might've talked about this before, but they did an episode where Mommy Pig finally was like the target for ridicule, and she had to jump out of an airplane with a parachute, and they had to train her how to do it. She was really nervous and didn't want to do it. And they finally get up in the airplane, and Daddy Pig goes with her. And instead of her jumping out of the airplane, Daddy Pig falls out of the airplane, and the joke winds up being on Daddy Pig after all. So you're like, come on, you can't. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. My only thorn, you've already kind of hit it, Nick, was that we don't have Saturday mornings are not cartoon time. Like any time is cartoon time, because you can stream things anytime, which is nice. But on the other hand, it's not something that kind of unites people. I kind of miss the Saturday morning cartoon time for sure.
Yeah, such a great, and there's so much on YouTube for those who want to revisit all that, where you can just Google like Saturday morning cartoons, or the famous, remember before the season would start, they would have the preview of all the new Saturday morning cartoons on each of the networks. And cartoons are just a special thing. We actually on our Twitter account, I followed Andy Frizella, who plays Brack.
Uh-huh.
And he posts stuff each week where he like does stand-up comedy, and he always performs a couple of Brack songs. So I think he did "Don't Touch Me" and "I'm a Cucumber" recently, which are classics.
Yeah, fantastic. Good topic. Good topic. We could stay here for a while, but let's keep going, Nick. We got a mailbag to get to that we've kind of, that's overflowing, and we need to kind of hit some of these. Let me read the first one to you. Becca from Arizona writes in, "Hey guys, just want you to know that I really enjoy the show." Thanks, Becca. "I'm a middle school counselor, and I use so many of your rose and thorn topics as icebreakers for our small group counseling sessions. This is the kids' favorite part, and I think mine too." And that is so cool. That is kind of the idea. You picked up on it
Yeah.
without us saying it, Becca. We try to kind of pick topics that that are not real. I don't know, that are fun, right? That are fun, that allow everybody to kind of win by sharing a little bit about themselves and about what they like and don't like. And I'm glad you're using it in that way. That's certainly how I've used it in the past from a counseling perspective, but also just a good way to kind of build bridges.
And it's also not it's low risk. Like
Yeah.
people can disagree on these topics, and they're not high value life, life or death type topics. Like if we disagree on our favorite cartoon, we're going to get past that, which is, again, low stakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the things you want to do in icebreakers is you want to do something that allows everybody to have positive participation. That's one of the keys to a good icebreaker. Allow everybody to have positive participation. And you start building that trust and those trusting relationships that we were just alluding to earlier. And so, yeah, a good icebreaker should do that and be, as Nick, as you said, be low risk, right? Yeah. And also, I always encourage people to be careful not to make your icebreaker competitive. Shouldn't have to compete, right? The coolest thing you ever did, the most embarrassing thing you did, then it becomes a bit of a competition, especially work with like middle schoolers. So it's just good conversation things to let people get to know each other. Sometimes they can find things they have in common that maybe they didn't realize just by looking at the person. So, so glad that you're using it in that way, Beck. And I guess I'd encourage other people to consider that as well.
Definitely. What's the next one, Rick? This is a state that I don't think has written in yet.
Yeah, here it is. Grace and her daughter Macy write in from Arkansas. And Grace says, "We listen to your show together and enjoy it. It's so nice to be able to listen to something together that is family friendly." Awesome. Macy would like to be a veterinarian when she grows up. That's fantastic, Macy. "We're wondering what you guys wanted to be when you grew up, when you were in elementary school." Oh, that's a cool question.
It is a cool question.
Thank you for sending that in, Grace and Macy. So glad you're listening.
I'm so glad Macy she's so young and yet has such a great idea for a career that really can be successful. And there's so many opportunities to volunteer at SPCAs, as you get a little bit older, and vocational programs through a lot of the different technical schools where they actually have animal medical sciences. And you can almost get a degree before you're even out of high school. So lots of great opportunities in that field if they choose to pursue it.
Fantastic.
Rick, I wish I could say that I had a career like that, fully
Me
prepared in elementary school.
Mhm.
But I simply, in elementary school, I just wanted to be Hulk Hogan.
Well, Nick, you kind of did that for a while, actually. You became a professional wrestler, so that wasn't that unrealistic.
Yeah, okay, so come to think of it in that sense, I guess, maybe some of that actually did happen and come to pass. But that was pretty much my, in most of elementary school, that was what I wasn't thinking in terms of, being a police person or a fire person or, a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher. It was more superhero driven.
Well, sure. But you selected out of all the wrestlers, you selected Hulk Hogan. So I guess let me ask about that. So why Hulk Hogan? Why was he the one that you wanted to be like?
Well, obviously, if back then, the character was very delineated and different from the human being. So just like an actor who played, Sylvester Stallone played Rambo, but he wasn't Rambo. So we're
Mhm.
talking about the character, and Hulk Hogan was the ultimate good guy. He was the superhero who stood up for what was right, and oftentimes in the face of insurmountable odds against people like King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant, and people looking to hurt others. And he was the protector of sorts, and he was good versus evil, and good would always come out on top in the end. So
Yeah.
in my mind, back in those black and white days, that was very much kind of what appealed to me. And I thought, the larger than life hero who was always trying to help others who were less fortunate was kind of the drive, I think.
Yeah, and Nick, just as you talk that out, I mean, you're a middle school principal.
Well,
I mean, aren't there aspects of what you just described, of what you kind of idolized about Hulk Hogan, that are relevant to the work that you do every day, and protecting kids and keeping them safe and helping them have a better shot at life, and doing good work? I mean, gosh, yeah, it seems like it to me. Yeah, you're not
yeah,
bad.
just
You're not body slamming the bad guys, but man, you're making a huge impact in other ways. So I don't know. I think that some of that's still relevant.
that's a real interesting way to look at it and put it, Rick. I haven't considered it that way, but yeah, when you have a day like where you watch a bunch of kids protect other kids from not showing that they have
Yeah,
poop in their pants,
yeah,
we've done that.
yeah. Absolutely. Nick,
Ah,
but that begs a question for me. Zero Gravity, Mason Cage.
uh-huh.
Always a good guy, or were you a bad guy sometimes?
Now they term the term is babyface, and a good guy's a babyface, the heel's the bad guy, and
Okay.
I looked like a babyface, so pretty much anywhere I went and wherever I worked, I was always a good guy. And what my the main promotion I worked for with my trainers, they finally decided that sometimes the best business you can do is turning the ultimate good guy into the ultimate bad guy. So
Mhm.
I did turn to a bad guy, and go
Oh,
to the dark side, and
wow.
it's a lot of fun being the bad guy. In fact, it's a lot
Uh-huh.
more fun being the bad guy than the good guy a lot of times.
Okay.
Um, you have to learn how to do it. But so yeah, I spent several years doing the bad guy thing too, which was also fun. And you can do it you can also do it from the lens of you're kind of tongue in cheek. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're the bad guy and you're wrong, but you're still kind of like voicing some truths. So at the
Mm,
same time, you can get under people's skins just by
yeah.
sort of being honest too a little bit here or there.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Also fun. But that's a whole like we could literally do a whole episode on the psychology of the good versus the bad there.
Oh.
But now it's your turn, Rick. What when you were in elementary school, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh man, I don't have anything nearly that fun. But I did want to be a Major League Baseball player. I wanted to play for the Phillies. I love the Phil. I still love the Phillies. And so I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Yeah.
That's
And I thought if that doesn't work out, I'll be an umpire. That was
oh,
that was my fallback. I had a more realistic fallback that I would be a Major League umpire.
you think from that perspective of a kid. What a smart. That was brilliant. You're like, in the event I can't make it, as I can still know the game and then be a part of the game by
Yeah.
officiating. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's super smart for an elementary age kid for sure.
Yeah. Well, I knew myself. I knew I wasn't a super athlete in elementary school, and so I thought I better have a fallback plan, and I love baseball, so
Which is
that
a
was going
major
to
league
be it.
umpire.
Yeah, exactly. Which I
Oh
kind of
my god,
wonder.
that's great.
Kind of wonder how you do that. Like, there's no. Do you go to umpire school? I mean,
I
do
think
you
you do.
start it? You do? You go to umpire school? Yeah, I should have. I never
Yeah.
got to the point where I looked into it actually, but that is an interesting question.
I would
Hmm.
guess most of the guys and girls start at PIAA, like high school level, and then eventually
Maybe,
move to
yeah,
college, and then I'm sure there's got to be training and avenues to make it to the pros. I would think.
yeah. That's probably
Hmm.
its own thing, its own complex web of working your way up. That's interesting. Hmm.
We'll have to find a major league ump and find out what the pathway was. One of my former superintendents was in the minor leagues doing officiating for
Really,
baseball, so we might be able to
kind
get
of
him on the show.
on a part time kind of thing. They were,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
he would do. He had lots of pictures in his basement too of like some of his favorite games and calls and things like
Oh
that.
wow,
So yeah, I bet you we could figure out how that happens.
yeah.
I would
I
think there.
like that the umpires had, the certain umpires had their own unique way to call a strike or call a strikeout. They became known for that, and their own kind of personalities, like Cowboy Joe West. I mean, there was just these iconic umpires, and even referees in football, right? I mean, there were
Yeah.
just certain referees that just had their own thing, and first down, right? Their own kind of way to do things. I thought that would be pretty cool. So
That's Enrico Palazza. When for Naked Gun, when they finally.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So much. That's so much to explore there, and that could be a whole other set of episodes as well.
I kind of idolized Mills Lane too, right? Mills Lane passed away not long ago, but that's
Yeah.
kind of falls into that same thing. I always thought he was, let's get it on. Always loved Mills Lane. So
Yep, that segued into his own Judge TV show and everything
Yeah,
else.
that's
Like,
right.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You had a whole career lined up. It's not too late.
It's not too late to pursue my dreams. Yeah.
That's never too late to pursue your dreams. One of my friends from growing up went to Catholic school, and I always asked her, I was like, "What do you think heaven is?" And she said, "For me, heaven would be I'd be a professional baseball player, and there would be a game every day of the year, and there'd be a game to play every day."
That's cool. That's
I was
cool.
like, that's a really, really cool definition of heaven there. So.
It sure is. Yeah. Oh man, I love that. Yep. Good stuff, man. It's been a fun one, Nick.
Another great episode, and summer is upon us. And our next episode, you gotta wonder, Rick, will it be recorded not online like this, but will it be when we are in Tennessee visiting the Albright family?
Oh, that would be a change of pace, wouldn't it? That'd be all right. We might have to talk about some Tennessee specific kind of trivia, maybe, or something like that.
That's right, and we'd have so many family members participating as well. So,
or a sweet tea ranking contest that we could share with the folks. They'd probably love to hear about that.
I'm very curious if the rankings would look different a year later.
Yeah, we'd know about reliability, right? We'd have some reliability data to.
We might have to consider that.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Keep sending your questions and comments into excellentadventure@gmail.com.